You've become quite a decorated Taekwondo athlete. You're probably the most decorated Taekwondo athlete, or at least one of them that I know personally. One of the cool things we get to do being a part of this community is we get to compete in tournaments and participate in different events like demonstrations and all of that.
Right.
But as far as competing, what is your approach and how do you prepare before you step foot on that mat getting ready to compete?
I personally set it, first of all, thank you for the compliment. I also set aside, I separate regular like class, and I train specifically for the tournament, like tournament specific training. So at the level I'm at now, that's different. So if I were to train for a tournament now, let's say, just go on my own, which I did many times, I make it as involved as possible. I'll run the miles I need to run. I'll do all the extra stuff, the jumping rope. I don't lift as many weights to do these kinds of things because I think that slows you down a lot. That's kind of more like more of an aesthetic thing. But I do lift functionally, deadlifts and that kind of stuff. But very involved. I mean, if we're going back to like when I was really at the pinnacle of what I was doing, I've only feel like I've gotten better as I've gotten older. I can sort of understand people on that. I didn't get that when people told me. I'm like, how do you feel better at 45 years old than you did at 25 years old? And it's what you know, your IQ, and it changes your effectiveness and your functionality. I didn't understand that. Now I do. But the preparation physically was brutal. I really put myself through a gauntlet, really to see where my mind could go. I think that's why everyone has a difficult time fighting me, because they're not able to go where I'm able to go mentally. There's an internal dialogue that I always talk about. It's like kind of what you say to yourself when you're in a tough situation. Let's say you take a punch to the face. I've taken that. Let's say you take a straight shot with a foot in your mouth. I've taken that. How do you talk to yourself out of sitting there, dropping your hands, getting upset, walking away, whatever? And for me, really as a sign of great athletes that I've seen in my life personally, that's when you dig down deeper. And that's when it starts to get fun, because there's the challenge. You just got hit with something big. How do you recover? Like Floyd Mayweather, right? One of the best boxers pretty much of all time, in my opinion. He doesn't really get hit that much, but when he got rocked, he was like right there. So like he prepared, he moved, he did the neck exercises, he did all of the training with it. His father talked to him, you know what I mean? Was his trainer for the most part. So kind of a combination of how I was spoken to. My mom was also a very unique athlete. I think she has a basketball record that still has yet to be broken. So I come from a lineage, and her sister was also her twin sister, also a phenomenal athlete. So we have that in the family. I kind of just took it a completely different direction for some reason. But, I wasn't the traditional basketball, football, baseball kind of kid. And those things are fun to play for me and not to watch. I think martial arts, fighting, confrontation, this is conflict resolution. I tell people that. If you don't want me to call it Taekwondo, I'll call it conflict resolution. It works. So, we just have a different philosophy of how to go about that process. But tournament training was always intense. I trained with, I think the longest training partner I've ever had, shout out to him because he's still around, Master Malarkey from Glamorous Taekwondo. Great friend of mine, been friends for 15 plus years now. And he was we were just there. We would just get to the school sometimes early, maybe like an hour before we had classes, sometimes a little bit more, so we could just, dry off and everything, not scare the parents and the kids away that were coming in at 3 o'clock. And we just fight. Like, I mean, we got down and dirty, like stuff that, we don't spend time talking about on many, many places. But, getting hit in your leg, getting hit, doing jumping back kick. One time, I guess I hit him, and I didn't know this until I had him on my podcast recently. But he said I hit him so hard he couldn't chew for 2 weeks. I didn't know that at the time, though, because he never showed me that. Like his internal dialogue was very similar. Like, I'm not going to show you I'm hurt. And that comes from having the right teachers around you, too. Like, I imagine if Grandmaster Kim, back in the day, or Master Mar back in the day, even now, if they got hit with a good shot, you would know it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the attitude sort of off of them, exhuming off of them and sort of blanketing over us. But I think naturally I'm mentally strong. I think Taekwondo definitely exacerbated that in a good way. And really solidified that because, you know, again, now I have a family. So I have lots of hats that I need to wear. I need to be different things to different people at different times here. Not to mention, you know, doing instruction for many people, many of which, I mean, there's this woman I taught today that drives an hour to get here. So that is the biggest compliment that I can get. Because she could find any old bum to go teach her whatever. But there's something about what I do with her and our relationship that she finds that's cool. But yeah, tournament stuff is, I mean, it could vary, right? Like, you know, I used to do like 2,000 sit-ups. Like whenever I was training for tournament, 2,000 sit-ups, or take the ab wheel and do 1,000. Like legit. I wouldn't leave the school till I did 1,000. It wouldn't take me all day either. I'd cram it in like an hour and a half. But I'd get it done. But I took everything I did to the extreme. Just to see where the mind can go. I didn't have the mind in mind per se when I was doing it. I just wanted to do it out of the sake of perfecting it because I didn't want to get in front of that person and let the school down or let Master Mar down. Oh, you're sending me in? I'm the only black belt that's fighting today in the heavyweight. I was always in the heavyweight division. So I was fighting men when I was 13. I was fighting grown men, like men, like, you know, who've been through things, have hair on their chest. I'm barely, you know, I barely have a beard at this point, you know, so I'm fighting men and that changes things too. And I know they fought hard at a certain point in time too, because I mean, it does become unfair when you're 16 fighting someone that's 39 or 40, let's face it. You know, that does change things. But when you're 16 fighting someone that's 25, I mean, they're kind of younger in a sense and smarter, you know, and if they're just as far along as you are or further in their rank, I mean, rank should change how you look at approaching a fight. That's one of the things I see. So I could be relaxed and be defensive and let you get off all your energy. It's like, why did I work hard all that time? Like when I turn my head and I look back on my career, why did I work so hard? But you had to go through that in order to understand how to not necessarily, you don't need to do it like this. You don't need to throw 3,000 kicks. If I'm on the street and I gotta put my daughter to the side and handle business for 2 seconds, make sure she doesn't run across the street at the same time, it's gotta happen like that. And that's kind of where I got to, like learning how to be efficient. But you have to go through a maturation process where you sometimes do stupid stuff, where you do too much, you know, you do too much of something. But I never thought that I did too much of anything. I thought that was like what was expected. I will say is one quick story. When I took my son to go to training, Glen Ridge Taekwondo's training, and that was being held in the park, you know, last summer. So I get home early and I said, you know, let's go, because I'm all about keeping everybody active. We've all been outside today, which is great. I just love warm weather anyway. So we went, and I won't say this person's name, but when I got there, I told him what I did that day. I ran 10 miles that day. And he was like, well, why did you do that? It was a black belt. I said, why'd you do that? And I was like, well, honestly, I thought that's what you were doing. I thought that's what the job is. I thought just because I'm not in the same room with you, I thought that didn't change what the job meant. The job still means, black belt means highest level of maintenance possible.
And that goes back to what you were saying when it comes back on, you know, the black belt.
Pretty much. And I hold that belt in esteem because of the people who have, again, been and had the helm, at the helm of what we do. That's been their standard. Black belt means excellence. That's why I had that quote, right? Excellence should never be a moderation. I got that that was a genuine quote from me, but I got that coming from this inspiration from the people that have come before me. So all this stuff is really just kind of going back to who came before. It's channeling itself through me, and then I'm giving it to, you know, new people now, which is great. But it's all about spreading the art at this particular point in time. Not that I don't think I'll ever compete again, but competition, again, to take your question in a different direction, competition for me changed from being external to internal. So now for me, it's about being better than I was yesterday, both on and off the mat. That's big for me. Like I have what I call an external camera. So I'm very self-aware. I think martial arts really, again, helped establish that. But like, if you don't have a mirror when you're training, you got to be able to feel what you're doing, feel it, and be able to correct it. Because you don't always have Master Mar there, right? Master Mar be taking care of someone, or be talking to somebody else. As a school leader, sometimes you feel like, man, I can't get enough time. But when the time that you do get with them, that's when you got to lock in. because, you know, that's to help you when he's not in front of you. And what do you spend more time in your life doing? When we just do the numbers, statistically, how much more of your life do you spend off the mat than on the mat? It's totally disparate, right? So you're spending way more time off the mat. So that's what's most important. When you get to the school, obviously, not say it's not important, but it's about taking the values out of the practice, the physical practice, and applying them in your life and being able to, you know, make people happy or tend to people or however, you know. But I think that's really the essence of really what martial arts practice is for. Yes, it's for you, but it's also got to be about your ability to, you know, the tournament aspect of it is really like life is a tournament. Life is a challenge. Life is a challenge. We all got hit hard this year. Like everybody got hit hard. If you didn't, I'm happy for you. If you didn't if you did get hit hard, hope you're doing something about it. But
Absolutely.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. How do you martial arts your way through the challenge? Do you have to get another job? Do you have to wake up earlier to work out? Do you have to do this? Do you have to do that during the middle of the day? We all have to find ways to make it work where there's not necessarily always going to be an instructor or somebody there to help us or pull us out of something. Oftentimes, I think the answers, and I tell everybody this, and I read a lot of stuff on martial arts as well, but the answers that you need are internal. They're there. You just have to, you know, there's different ways and mediums and pathways to access those answers. But the tournament's really, really between you and you now. You know, at this point in my game, it's about, you know, being a better practitioner than I was yesterday. Yes, sure, of course. Better teacher. Yes, sure. But I also got to be a better father. How can I do that? How can I be a better husband? How can I do that? You know, how can I be a better friend? How can I do that? That's the direction I'm thinking.
And, you know, it's also a big part of, you know, holding yourself accountable as well. It's personal accountability.
Yes.
Like how are you when nobody else is around?
Right.
You know?
That's who you are, right? When you leave, like when you leave kids by themselves, right? What they do when they're not with you is who they are. When they're in front of you, they act a certain way, right? Because they're like, okay, this person's okay right there on the side. Oh, okay. All right. Salute. But when they're not in front of you and they're like, you know, I drop my daughter at daycare and I walk past, you know, maybe an hour later, she doesn't know. I see, you know, her holding court, you know, I see her, you know, summoning them. She sees me do that, which is cool. You know, I'm hoping, you know, she's also open to learning because she's young, but, you know, it's the same thing. When I leave the boys alone by themselves, same concept. But, you know, you ultimately hope that whoever it is you're teaching or working with, I believe in trying to make sure that I treat teaching as it's the most important aspect to me of life, because the first black belts in my life were my parents. First black belts. They know they're guiding me this way, that way. They install certain things up to a certain point. So I try to tell parents when they came and asked me, you know, like, hey, can you teach my kid self-discipline? Only if you installed some of that. It starts at home.
Starts at home.
Starts at home. I can't install it for you. I can take it to the next level that you wouldn't be able to necessarily see, but I can certainly do that for you. But some level of it has to be there, even if it's low. Some level of it, but everything comes from home. I think I firmly believe in that. But again, as a teacher, and not in the school system, my wife is one, but same concept. I mean, she has a genuine love for what she does. I think that's seen and felt, especially with the Zoom thing. I'm surprised at how many people are feeling the energy through a screen. That's how most of us have been able to stay connected. What we're doing right now is through a screen. You can feel that I'm very passionate about what I do, I hope. So it's like it's got to be infectious. When you work with somebody, it should be a great experience for them, not for like your sake, like so they can talk about you later and be like, hey, if I need a recommendation, can I come to you real quick? No, it's like I genuinely want people to like leave or come to me one way and leave feeling even better than that. Period. That's all I've ever been about.